I'm Rachel, and I thought I knew my life. Every predictable moment with my husband Daniel, every quiet night in our perfect suburban home. But one weekend, a spontaneous camping trip into the wild tore open a hidden seam in our marriage, exposing desires and secrets I never imagined. As the forest whispered around us, I stumbled into a forbidden moment that set my heart racing with both thrill and terror. Now, I'm trapped between the man I've loved for over a decade and a dangerous truth that could unravel everything. What did Daniel see in those shadowed woods, and why does his calm gaze feel like the scariest thing of all? Picture this: a single, flickering candle on a polished oak table, its tiny flame dancing in the stillness of a house too quiet for its own good. That's where I'm starting, right in the heart of a moment that feels heavier than it should. My name's Rachel, and at 39, I've carved out a life that looks perfect on paper. Over a decade ago, I said I do to Daniel, a man who's become the steady pulse of my everyday. He's 42 now, a quiet force with a serious edge, always hunched over a book or tapping away at his laptop in our home office. As a freelance editor, he's got a mind for details, obsessive even. He's the kind of person who plans everything, down to the last grain of salt in our dinner recipes or the exact hour we'll leave for a weekend errand. His calm demeanor is an anchor. But sometimes, I catch myself wondering if I'm tethered too tight. Our home sits in a sleepy suburban pocket, where the streets are lined with identical mailboxes and the grass is always trimmed just so. Inside, our world is a study in order. Shelves stacked with books arranged by genre, a fridge door plastered with color-coded calendars, and the faint strains of Daniel's classical music drifting through the air like a constant, soothing hum. It's a life we've built together, a well-rehearsed performance where every line is memorized. Safe, yes. Predictable, absolutely. But there are days when the air feels thick, like I'm breathing through a straw, craving something I can't quite name. I don't say it out loud, though. Not to him. Not yet. I can still see last week as clear as if it's happening now. Daniel was at his desk, the lamplight catching the silver in his hair, his glasses slipping down his nose as he scribbled notes in the margin of some manuscript. He turned to me, and there was this rare glint in his gray eyes, a flicker of something I hadn't seen in years. "Rachel," he said, his voice softer than usual. "What if we went camping this weekend?" I nearly dropped the mug I was holding. Spontaneity isn't in Daniel's vocabulary. A camping trip? Out in the wild, with no Wi-Fi, no schedules, just the two of us and the raw edge of nature? I hesitated, my mind racing with images of muddy trails and cold nights, but there was something in his tone. Something almost pleading. So I nodded, a slow smile creeping up as I thought about the promise of fresh air. The kind of silence that isn't suffocating, but freeing. I agreed, curious to see what this break from our norm might uncover. We won't be entirely alone out there, though. Word is, we'll cross paths with a couple of hikers, strangers who'll wander into our story soon enough. I don't know their names yet, don't know their faces, but the thought of unexpected company. The morning of our camping trip started with the low rumble of Daniel's old sedan as we pulled out of our driveway, leaving behind the manicured lawns and quiet streets of our suburban bubble. I sat in the passenger seat, my elbow propped on the window, staring out at the endless blur of pines that lined the highway during our 3-hour drive to the forest. The air inside the car felt charged, a mix of excitement and something heavier, uncertainty, maybe. I kept stealing glances at Daniel, his hands steady on the wheel, his brow furrowed in that familiar way as he focused on the road ahead. Every now and then, he'd reach for the crumpled map on the dashboard, double-checking our route even though the GPS was right there, barking directions. Typical Daniel, always needing to be sure. He'd packed our gear with the precision of a military operation, ticking off items on a checklist he'd made days ago. I couldn't help but smile at his meticulousness, but beneath it, there was this quiet restlessness in me, a nagging thought that stepping into the wild might unearth something we weren't ready to face. When we finally arrived at the clearing near the mountain river, I stepped out of the car and just stood there for a moment, taking it all in. The forest was breathtaking, like something out of a painting I'd never dared to imagine myself in. Towering evergreens stretched endlessly into the sky, their needles whispering in the breeze, while the distant rush of water over rocks played like a natural soundtrack. The air was crisp, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil and pine sap, so different from the stale familiarity of home. I breathed deep, letting it fill me up, hoping it might wash away the tension I'd carried on the drive. We set to work on the tent right away, and I'll admit, I was a mess with the poles, fumbling and tangling them until they looked more like a modern art sculpture than anything functional. Daniel, of course, was methodical, hammering stakes into the ground with quiet efficiency. He glanced over, saw my struggle, and let out a rare chuckle before stepping in to help. "Like this, Rachel," he said, his voice patient as he guided my hands. I laughed too, though it came out nervous, my cheeks warming under his steady gaze. It was a small moment, but out here, away from our usual routine, even the tiniest interactions felt amplified, loaded with unspoken weight. As evening fell, we built a small campfire, the flames crackling and casting an orange glow across the clearing. I sat on a log, hugging my knees, watching the light flicker on Daniel's face as he settled across from me with a paperback in hand. His eyes moved over the pages, but every so often they'd lift to meet mine, a faint smile tugging at his lips before he looked away again. I wanted to say something, to bridge the quiet between us with words that mattered, but they stuck in my throat. Instead, I just watched him, feeling this ache, a longing. The second day dawns with a pale light filtering through the trees, the air cool and sharp against my skin as I sit by the dwindling campfire, a chipped mug of coffee warming my hands. I watch Daniel across the clearing, his movements precise and deliberate as he prepares for a short hike up the mountain. He's stuffing his backpack with a water bottle, a trail map folded just so, and a small first aid kit. Always prepared, always in control. His brow is furrowed in that familiar way, his gray eyes focused as he double-checks every item. He glances over at me, his voice low and steady. "Stay near camp, Rachel. I won't be long." I nod, murmuring a quiet agreement, though my mind is already drifting, restless in a way I can't quite pin down. There's something about the vastness of this forest that makes my predictable life feel like a cage I didn't even know I was in. As Daniel zips up his pack, I hear the crunch of footsteps approaching from the nearby campsite we'd noticed yesterday. Two figures emerge from the trees, their silhouettes sharpening into people as they draw closer. The man steps forward first, a rugged guy in his mid-30s, his tanned skin marked by the sun and his confident grin catching the morning light. "Hey there, I'm Ethan," he says, his voice warm, almost too friendly, as his hazel eyes linger on me a moment longer than necessary. Behind him stands a woman, late 20s, her posture reserved, her dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. "This is Mia," Ethan adds, gesturing to her. She offers a small wave, her expression distant, like she'd rather be anywhere else. I force a smile, feeling the weight of Daniel's gaze on me as he straightens up, his own greeting polite but clipped. Ethan's charm is disarming, his easy laugh cutting through the morning stillness, and I can't help but notice the way my pulse quickens under his attention. Ethan glances at the firewood pile near our tent, then back at me with that grin still in place. "Need a hand gathering more wood? I've got time before we head out." I hesitate, my fingers tightening around my mug. I know I should say no, keep things simple, but there's a pull in his offer, a spark of something I haven't felt in ages. I glance at Daniel, who's watching us with an unreadable look as he adjusts his backpack straps. "Sure," I hear myself say, the words slipping out before I can stop it. Ethan's smile widens, and as we walk away from the campsite, I feel Daniel's eyes boring into my back, a silent question hanging in the air between us. The forest floor is uneven beneath my boots, the crunch of leaves and twigs loud in my ears as Ethan walks beside me, his stride confident. He chats casually about the trails he's hiked, his voice a low rumble that fills the quiet. But I'm only half listening, my thoughts a tangled mess of curiosity and unease. We're only a few minutes into our walk when I stumble over a gnarled root, my balance faltering. Ethan's hand shoots out, gripping mine to steady me, his touch firm and warm, sending a jolt through me I wasn't expecting. I look up, and his hazel eyes lock with mine, intense and searching, holding me in place as my breath catches in my throat. He steps closer, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face, his fingers lingering against my cheek. The air between us crackles, charged with something dangerous, something I know I should pull away from. But I don't. I can't. My heart is pounding, a rush of heat flooding through me, a feeling I haven't known in years. Wild, reckless, alive. Before I can think, before I can stop myself, we're stepping behind a massive rock, hidden from any prying eyes. What happens there is a blur of raw, forbidden energy, a moment of surrender that's as much about escape as it is about desire. It's the roughness of the bark scraping against my back, the heat of his breath against my skin, the way every nerve in my body felt alive, tingling with forbidden excitement. That night in the tent, the darkness feels like a living thing, pressing down on me, thick and suffocating. I'm lying on my sleeping bag, the thin fabric doing little to shield me from the hard ground beneath. Outside, the river roars in the distance, a constant, restless murmur that seems to echo the chaos in my head. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig beyond the canvas walls makes my nerves twitch. Daniel is right beside me, his presence a heavy weight, even though I can barely make out his shape in the near black. I can hear his breathing, slow and even, but it doesn't calm me. If anything, it winds me tighter, like a coiled spring waiting to snap. I'm braced for the inevitable, waiting for him to turn to me, to ask questions I don't have answers for, to demand explanations I can't give. My mind is a whirlwind of half-formed excuses, apologies tripping over each other, none of them good enough to erase what happened earlier today behind that rock with Ethan. I keep replaying it, the rush, the heat, the way I lost myself in a moment I never saw coming. And now, here in this confined space, I'm drowning in the aftermath, terrified of what Daniel might say if he knows. I shift slightly, the sleeping bag crinkling under me, and I freeze, worried the sound might wake him if he's asleep. But then, out of the silence, his voice cuts through the dark, low and steady, like he's been waiting for this moment just as much as I have. I saw everything. I wanted it. You're beautiful when you let go. My heart stops. I swear it does, just for a split second before it slams back to life, pounding so hard I'm sure he can hear it. My mouth goes dry, my tongue sticking to the roof, words evaporating before they can form. I turn my head slowly, almost against my will, to face him. The dim glow of the lantern we left on low casts faint shadows across his face, and what I see there isn't anger or betrayal. It's something else, something serene, almost peaceful, like he's been carrying this thought for a while and is finally free of it. His gray eyes hold mine, unblinking, and there's a depth to them I can't read, a quiet intensity that sends a shiver down my spine. I want to speak, to ask what he means, to demand how long he was watching. But I'm frozen, caught in the weight of his gaze and the impossible truth of his words. My mind is a storm now, thoughts crashing into each other with no clear path. There's a flicker of relief, sharp and unexpected, that he's not furious, that this isn't the explosion I'd been dreading. But it's buried under a wave of confusion, a gnawing uncertainty about what he's saying. He wanted it? What does that even mean? Did he see me as something to be shared, something to be observed like a scene in one of his manuscripts? The idea twists in my gut, both unsettling and strangely freeing, as if a door I didn't know existed has just creaked open. I think back over our marriage, all the years of routine, the careful order we've built, and I wonder if I've ever really known him at all. Was this desire always there, hidden behind his meticulous plans and quiet demeanor? Did he orchestrate this trip, this moment, knowing it might lead to something like today? The suspicion creeps in, cold and insidious, making me question every choice, every conversation, every glance we've shared out here in the wild. I feel trapped in this tent, the walls too close, the air too thin, but at the same time, there's this bizarre sense of liberation, like I've stumbled into a version of us I never imagined. We don't say anything more. The silence stretches out again, heavier now, filled with the unspoken. I turn onto my back, staring up at the tent ceiling, though I can't see much beyond the vague outline of fabric in the dark. His words loop in my head, over and over, each repetition carving deeper into. The morning after that haunting conversation in the tent, I wake to a world that feels different, sharper, as if the very air is charged with secrets I can't quite grasp. The light filters through the dense canopy of trees, casting dappled patterns on the ground outside, a soft golden glow that seems almost too gentle for the storm raging inside me. I unzip the tent flap and step out, the chill of the early dawn biting at my skin, sending a shiver through me that's only partly from the cold. I wrap my arms around myself, my breath visible in small puffs as I try to steady my nerves. Daniel's already up, crouched by the campfire pit, tending to a small pot of coffee as if nothing in the world has shifted. His movements are as precise as ever, pouring water from a tin kettle with a kind of calm that unnerves me more than any outburst could. I avoid his gaze, my eyes darting to the ground, to the trees, anywhere but at him. The weight of last night's confession hangs between us, unspoken yet suffocating, and I can't bear to look into those gray eyes and see that strange serenity again. I hear the crunch of boots on the forest floor before I see him, and my heart lurches in a way that's both familiar and terrifying. Ethan emerges from the path leading to their campsite, that same confident smile playing on his lips, his hazel eyes catching the morning light as they find mine. He walks with an easy stride, like he owns every inch of this wild space, and I feel my pulse quicken despite myself. "Morning, Rachel," he calls out, his voice casual, almost teasing, but there's a sharpness in his gaze, a searching intensity that makes my skin prickle. He stops a few feet away, hands in his jacket pockets, and tilts his head slightly. "Daniel mentioned he wants to film us together. If you're okay with it?" His words hang in the air, heavy with implication, and I feel my stomach drop like I've stepped off a cliff. My hands tremble around the chipped mug I'm holding, the coffee inside sloshing slightly as I grip it tighter, as if it's the only thing anchoring me to this moment. I can't speak, can't form a single coherent thought. My throat feels tight, my mind a chaotic blur of fear and something darker, something I don't want to name. All I manage is a small, involuntary nod, a gesture so slight I'm not even sure he sees it. But he does. His smile widens just a fraction, and I feel like I'm outside my own body, watching this unfold from a distance, powerless to stop it. I steal a glance at Daniel, who's still by the fire, his back partially turned, but his posture too still, too deliberate. He's watching us from the corner of his eye, and I catch the faintest nod from him, a subtle gesture of encouragement that sends a surge of emotions crashing through me. Anger flares first, hot and bitter, burning in my chest at the realization that he's not just okay with this, he's orchestrating it. He's been pulling strings I didn't even know existed, shaping this moment with the same meticulous care he uses for everything else in our life. Betrayal follows, a cold, hollow ache that makes me want to scream at him, to demand why he's doing this, what he hopes to gain from watching me unravel. But beneath it all, there's a strange, dark curiosity. A whisper in the back of my mind that wonders how far this will go. What lies on the other side of this surreal boundary we're crossing? It's a dangerous thought, one that frightens me as much as it draws me in, like staring into an abyss that might stare back. Inside, I'm a battlefield of conflicting desires. Part of me wants to throw this mug to the ground, to pack up our things and demand we leave this cursed forest behind, to escape back to the safety of our predictable suburban life where I can pretend none of this ever happened. I want to shout at Daniel, to tear down this facade of calm and force him to explain himself, to tell me why he's pushing me into this unknown. The rest of that day in the forest passes in a haze, a heavy silence wrapping around Daniel and me like a thick fog. We move through the motions of packing up camp, folding the tent with mechanical precision, each of us avoiding the other's gaze. The air between us feels brittle, like it could shatter with a single wrong word. I keep my hands busy, stuffing sleeping bags into their sacks, rolling up mats, anything to keep from looking at him and seeing that unreadable calm in his gray eyes. The river's distant roar is the only sound besides the rustle of our gear, and I cling to it, letting it drown out the thoughts clawing at the edges of my mind. Every so often, I catch a glimpse of Ethan and Mia at their nearby site, their figures small in the distance, but I turn away before memories of earlier moments can resurface. I've made up my mind, though it sits like a stone in my chest. When the last of our things are packed and we're standing by the car, I finally force myself to speak, my voice low, almost lost in the breeze. Daniel, I can't go through with what was suggested. I need time. I need to process all of this. He pauses, his hand on the trunk of the car, and for a moment, I think he might push back. But he just nods. A slow, deliberate motion, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face before it's gone. He doesn't argue, doesn't press me, almost as if he'd anticipated this all along. It's a quiet acceptance that somehow cuts deeper than any protest would have. The drive home is a long, winding descent from the wild back to the familiar. I sit in the passenger seat, staring out the window as the forest fades into a blur of green and brown, eventually giving way to the gray ribbon of highway. The trees thin out, replaced by gas stations and billboards, but my mind is still tangled in the undergrowth of what happened out there. Questions swirl like leaves caught in a storm, about trust, about desire, about who Daniel and I have become after all these years. I steal glances at him, his hands steady on the wheel as always, his face a mask of focus. But I wonder what's behind it now, what thoughts he's hiding beneath that calm exterior. As for me, I can't deny the truth that settled into my bones. I don't regret that fleeting, intense moment with Ethan, that rush of feeling alive in a way I hadn't in so long. It's a memory that burns, vivid and unerasable, a secret I carry like a hidden scar. But Daniel's idea of letting go, the way he seemed to welcome it, even orchestrate it, that's something I'm not sure I can live with. It feels like a betrayal of the life we've built, even if it was his choice to blur those lines. I'm caught between the thrill of what I felt and the weight of what it means for us. And the car feels smaller with every mile, the silence between us growing heavier than the forest we've left behind. When we pull into our driveway, the suburban stillness of our neighborhood feels almost surreal after the rawness of the wilderness. Our house looms ahead, its tidy exterior a stark contrast to the chaos I'm carrying inside. We step through the front door, and it's like slipping back into a costume that no longer fits. Daniel heads straight to his desk in the home office, his laptop already open, his fingers tapping away as if nothing has changed. I linger in the hallway for a moment, watching him settle into his routine with that same meticulous focus, and a pang of something, loss maybe, twists in my chest. I turn away, dragging our bags to the bedroom to unpack, each item a reminder of the trip. The scent of pine still clings to our clothes, a stubborn echo of those days in the forest. And as I fold them into drawers, I can't shake the feeling that everything is different now. The house is too quiet, the hum of Daniel's classical music drifting through the walls like a ghost of our old life. I move through the motions, laundry, dishes. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you,